This week you are going to be working on close reading your text in rhetorical analysis. So for project 1, we are going to see our notes here that have close reading overview and a place to submit your close reading notes. So I want to go over what that's going to look like, although a lot of the details are already explained in the document. So here in the close reading overview, if you go down, you'll see the graphic organizer that you are expected to use for this assignment. Click this and it's going to open up to a Word document here. And what you're going to do in order to copy this to your own Google Drive is go to File, make a copy, and then you'll be able to use this. So right now when you open this, it's locked. You should not be able to type on it. I'm going to be able to type on it because this is my document, but you're going to go to File, make a copy, and it'll make a copy in your own Google Drive. And then that will be an editable copy that you'll be able to type onto. So you're going to choose the text that you are going to close read. And I have pulled up a text already called 5 Reasons to Consider Community College. And this is by US News. And I'm going to preview some of this information so I can get an idea of what I want to put on my graphic organizer. So going back to this, you will put the title and the author. And the purpose of close reading is to really deeply analyze a text. So when we read a text for the first time, we get, some knowledge, kind of like watching a movie. You get some awareness, but then when you watch the movie the second time, you notice things that you didn't notice before. If you watch it again and again, then you start picking up on other details that you didn't notice the first time. So that's what we're doing here with our text, whether you're reading an article or watching a video. However you are analyzing your text, you are going to complete a graphic organizer to guide you through the close reading process. Now, you may be familiar with close reading already, but typically this is applied to literary analysis, where we talk about the character development and the setting and the plot. And this is different. This is rhetorical analysis. So we're looking for how they constructed their argument. So the purposes of each reading may be different. So for the first read, you're really looking at what is the text saying. It's a very surface level read. What are you getting and what information are you getting? What do you think the argument is that the author is making? What is standing out to you as far as examples or references? And so here you're going to write key ideas of the text. You're going to want to have their thesis. What do you think is their argument? And then just bullet point, get my bullet points here, then just bullet point other things that just stand out to you. What are some points that they're making? Try to look for main ideas if you can, maybe some key details. And then here you're going to annotate any questions you have about the text. I really want you to develop questions. So I don't want you to say, oh, I have no questions, because I want you to think about what are you reading? What are some questions that are popping up? It could be easy to answer questions that may be answered by the text, or it could be kind of bigger questions that may take some outside research. You don't have to answer these questions, just observe some of the questions you're thinking. And then here in this category, you're going to note any additional observations you made while reading. Now, there's no required word count that you have to have a certain number of bullet points or words, but I do want to see that you're putting effort into this read. So if you only have 1 or 2 bullet points, that's really not showing a lot of effort when you're talking about a full article that you're analyzing. So please put effort and time into the work that you're doing here. Okay, so we're going to do that on the first read. Then we're going to read the article a second time. This might be the same day. You might go take a break, come back to this. You might even wait for the next day. Give yourself time to kind of resonate on the first read before you go to the second. This is not set up for you to read it 3 times in one sitting. This document, reading it 3 times and completing this, should take a substantial amount of time. So this isn't something you're doing in 10 minutes where you're reading it, filling out the document, reading it, filling out the document. This might take a couple days. Again, it's helpful, in my opinion, to read it, write the first read, notes, and then leave it. Go do something else, go do your other homework, come back to it an hour later or the next day and do your second read, and then so on for your third. Okay, so for the second read, we're looking for rhetorical devices. So we've talked about different techniques that authors use to make their argument more persuasive. So some of those were like ethos, pathos, logos, kairos, attention to audience, a lot of other techniques that are available. So I want you to look for what techniques you're noticing. The kind of the easiest ones to identify first are ethos, pathos, and logos, maybe kairos. And so here you're going to kind of space those out so you have space here for your notes. So ethos, bring in an example of ethos. You could put a direct quote or an example. I recommend you put parenthetical citations just because you're going to need those for your essay. And so here you already have examples. This is a great pre-reading and pre-writing exercise because you are identifying key quotes that when you go to write your essay, you can pull quotes directly from your graphic organizer. And then again, just room for your own observations. And if you feel like you need to move these categories over a little bit for spacing, you can. All right, and then the third read you're going to do is having to do with the context. This is specifically kairos. So even if you might mention it a little bit here, you can, or you can wait until this, but this is what our third read is really looking at. So what was the context and the circumstances the text was published under? What was going on in the culture during that time, in society, in history, politics, economics, or how do you connect with the text? And so these are flexible. You don't have to answer all of these. These might take some outside research. So if you're looking at, let's say, analyzing a music video from 1995, you might need to do a little research and figure out what was the political climate like at that time in whatever country this was released in. What was happening in that culture that made this text a more relevant argument. And it's also neat to note how that impacts our current culture. So you're going to look for, again, quotes from the text, evidence from the text that brings in examples of this, and then identifies as a cultural reference, a historical reference, economical reference, and then any observations that you have here as well. Okay, so just to give a couple examples here and go back to our text. Here's my text, 5 reasons to consider community college. And so I can already tell based on my read and based on the title that the thesis of this is that it's better to attend community college than a 4-year. Okay? And so then I'm looking for main ideas. Now, I've already pre-read this, so I'm going to kind of skip ahead here, but they do use headings to help identify some of the main ideas in their article. So one main idea is lower cost. And I might bring in a direct quote if I want to. It costs on average about 1/3 of 4-year university. So I'm going to copy that, paste it, and I can deal with the formatting later. But this just reminds me that this is a direct quote from the text. And then I'm going to go through, find another main idea, that this is a path to a 4-year university. Now, not every text is going to have these as obvious, but that's a helpful text right there, bullet point there. And then, again, I'm going to note any questions I have. So, like one question might be, does this differ depending on state? And then, again, identify several questions, and then any observations I have. So one observation that I made here is that they're actually highlighting their outside research, and so it's actually showing their site, their sources. So here we have some reliable sources, so I might just note here that the author identified reliable sources. Okay, again, continue developing that. And then our second read, I'm looking at some rhetorical devices. So what are some examples of ethos, pathos, and logos that I see? Pull specific quotes and identify your own observations as well. And then on our third read, again, we're looking for evidence of the relevance of this text. So I might look here at when this was published. This article does say when it's published in 2022. I might look at who the author is. Let's see what his background is. And he has some examples of writing here. So I might look at some of the examples just to see who he is, what context he's writing in, maybe even the background of the source, who is US News, and what makes them a reliable source of information. And I'm going to note any of those examples of any kind of relevance to culture, society, history, politics, economics, and myself. So again, I want detailed information here. Bullet points is fine. If you're pulling quotes, you can just copy and paste it with quotation marks so that you remember you already have pulled quotes from the source. And this is really going to help with your paper. Let me know if you have questions.